Hi everyone, we are back with another world building character design video. I'm sorry this one took a bit longer to get out. This week has been super busy and I have barely had any time to draw. But today we are continuing the development on Brassbound and its characters. Brassbound is a world that I kind of came up with as a way to practice art and get better, and I have done one other video designing the royal of this nation, Queen Annalise. So, if you're interested in seeing the first iteration, then feel free to go check that out. But today I will be designing her two royal guards. As I mentioned in the last video, in this world, automatons are powered by spirits and also pretty much mass-produced for the whole population to use. And of course, this also applies to the queen, and she will have two automaton royal guards that will follow her around, and these are the characters that I will be designing in this video. From the very beginning, I knew I wanted them to represent a strong duality. I wanted each of them to embody opposing, recognizable traits so that they'd feel more memorable and interesting as a pair. So with that idea locked in, let's move on to their actual designs. I started off with some loose, broad sketches, trying not to get too attached to any single idea too early. Since they're meant to be royal guards, I mostly stuck to humanoid designs for these initial explorations, though as you can see with the little bird sketch up top, automatons in this world could technically be built in any shape that best suits their intended purpose. That said, among the public, humanoid automatons tend to be the most popular. Here I am sketching out what actually powers these machines. They're called runes, and they function a bit like a form of Morse code. Spirals are made up of dots and lines that channel a spirit's essence into the metal, and the specific arrangement of these dots and lines forms the rules, quote-unquote, that the automaton must follow, essentially their programming. I also really liked the idea of automatons being designed with theatrical elements, since I imagine that would be popular with the public of this kingdom. They might even be styled after professions that match their function, like armored guards or elegant maids. I also sketched out a basic skeletal body plan without any metal plating or clothing, taking inspiration from the automaton in the film Hugo, which was a huge part of my childhood and really captures the kind of tone that I want my own automatons to evoke. But moving back to the sketches, I think I really liked the idea of the queen having two jester-like guards. On the surface, they'd be presented as entertainers, always close to her side, but secretly they'd be highly capable protectors, ready to act at a moment's notice. To keep that duality theme strong, I gave them the classic theater comedy masks, one joyful and bubbly, the other more reserved and melancholic. I also wanted to incorporate some jack-in-the-box elements, so I added spring-like appendages to their torsos and arms. This would make them feel more nimble, expressive, and a little unpredictable in movement too. I decided to name them Mirth and Woe to represent their dual happy and sadder natures, and I thought it was a bit fitting, and also cute short names kind of like helped them be more memorable. But with those base designs set, I moved on to color variations, starting with Mirth. For him, I stuck to warm, vibrant colors to really sell that cheerful, energetic personality. And then with the first color set done, I kind of just copy-pasted them and played around with the color hue and values in order to quickly change colors. That way you can get a lot of explorations in a really short amount of time. For Woe, I went with colder, more muted tones. I also tweaked his design to remove most of the jingle bells, since I imagined he'd be much more quieter and reserved, while Mirth would be the louder, more attention-grabbing one of the two. Once the colors were chosen, I created more detailed turnaround sheets. I fully rendered the front views, but kept the back views in flat colors so that they'd be easier to reference later on if I ever want to draw them again. After that, I moved on to a more illustrative piece for their quote-unquote front page. These two are just one example of the many uses automatons have in this kingdom. Some are incredibly complex and likely very expensive to create, like Mirth and Woe, with impressive versatility and adaptability, while others are much simpler, smaller machines designed for singular tasks like writing letters or folding clothes. However, as I mentioned in my first video, there is a darker secret that the public doesn't know about the production of these machines. People are aware that smaller, non-sentient spirits are typically used to power basic automatons. But those weaker spirits aren't powerful enough to run the more complex humanoid models that are so popular among the elite. For those machines, something far more potent is required. Spirits with stronger wills and closer ties to the mortal world. Human spirits. Of course, spirits that are more aware would never willingly allow themselves to be bound into a machine, forced to follow rigid programming day after day, unable to override it. And that's why these spirits can only be channeled by the most powerful rune carvers, specifically the head of the IAC, who alone has the knowledge and ability to trap them unwillingly inside these constructs. And no, he isn't happy about it either. But I think I'll save his story for a future possible video. This is the reason that the Queen is so secretive about what really goes into the production of these machines. I'd imagine the public would not be very pleased if they found out the souls of their dead relatives were being channeled into these machines. So therefore, the Imperial Automaton Company, the IAC, is a very close-knit and guarded factory that not many have ever been able to visit. But anyways, that's pretty much all the lore that I have for this video. I always thought that this kind of lore is something I like to think about while designing characters. I find that creating a clear purpose or backstory behind every design helps them feel a lot more memorable and meaningful. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this process. If you have any ideas for future videos or thoughts about this one, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.